Shalom, I'm Julia, and welcome to Julia Reviews, the show where I just talk about stuff. And so, since tonight is the 6th night of Hanukkah, I decided I would resurrect Julia Reviews once again, and we're going to talk about one of them rare Hanukkah movies out there. 8 Crazy Nights is a 2002 animated holiday comedy from SNL funny man himself, Adam Sandler. And if you remember, I talked a little bit about Adam Sandler earlier this year. All the movies were better. And his newer stuff is definitely of weaker quality compared to some of his earlier works. Back in the day, Adam Sandler was just an up-and-comer on Saturday Night Live during the 90s. A lot of his stuff involved working with other popular comedians like the late, great Chris Farley. And one of Adam's talents was his music, one of his biggest hits being the Hanukkah song. David Lee Roth lights the menorah, so do Kirk Douglas, James Caan, and the late Dinah Shore. After he left SNL, he soon pursued a career in movies, and like it was stated in Your Older Movies Were Better, despite being a very talented man, his movie quality started going down over the years. We'll always have great ones like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Wedding Singer, but we'll also have stuff like Grown Ups, Jack and Jill, and That's My Boy. Although I will admit, I personally think that Pixels is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. But it seemed in the early and even mid-2000s we were getting movies that were pretty mixed amongst critics and audiences. Movies like Big Daddy, Little Nicky, and Don't Mess with the Zohan. Where exactly does this movie 8 Crazy Nights fall in? The story is about Davey, played by Adam Sandler, your typical holiday humbug, who we later find out acts like this because he tragically lost his parents in a car crash during Hanukkah. Since then, he's become rude, an alcoholic, and often has run-ins with the law for delinquency. Once in court, an old man named Whitey, also played by Sandler, says that he'll take him under his wing in community service. If Davey can get his act together, then he won't have to go to jail. From there, Whitey often is used as a source of comedy because of his voice and eccentric behavior. Through a series of circumstances, Davey temporarily moves in with Whitey and his sister Eleanor, also played by Adam Sandler.
And keep in mind, this was still 9 years before Jack and Jill.
From there, Davey starts to become a better person, helping Whitey with the community basketball team and forming a relationship with an old girlfriend, played by Adam Sandler's real wife. But around the third act, Davey resorts back to his old ways until he has a weird hallucination sequence with a bunch of product placements telling him to clean up his act. Through a musical number, too.
We all heard what happened at the skating rink today. When Whitehead brought up your sad past, you snapped and walked away. Well, maybe they're onto something that you should give a try. Go ahead and let it out and have yourself a cry.
As you guessed, the movie ends with Davey telling everyone in town at a big ceremony that he's changed his ways, and everyone ends happily Hanukkah ever after. When it comes to this movie, there's some people who think it's really good. There's some people who think that it's not so good. Let's look at some of the stuff that I personally liked and disliked in this movie.
If you're coming from the street with dirty shoes on your feet, that's a technical foul.
The animation is great. This is one of the most visually appealing movies based on the designs alone. The fact they were actually able to make each character look different from one another and very unique is a definite plus. I also enjoyed the movie's soundtrack. The songs in the movie are pretty good, for the most part. Songs like Long Ago and even Intervention Song are well composed and have some well-written lines. But I could definitely see people not being into songs like Technical Foul based on the vocals alone.
You gonna talk about some of the bad stuff now?
Fine, I'll talk about some of the negatives, jeez.
If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul.
When it comes to the comedy, it's pretty much what you'd expect from the Happy Madison wheelhouse. A lot of toilet humor, even seeing reindeer eating feces, people pissing their pants, burping, farting. Did we mention Rob Schneider plays a racial stereotype?
Like he always does?
And if the humor's not being too crass, it often borders on being mean-spirited. And just like Jack and Jill, which my pals Media Wiz and Nostalgia Kid reviewed, the two main characters aren't really all that likable. Whether it's Davey being a rude wise guy from the way he treats Whitey, or Whitey and his sister just being loud, weird, and annoying for the sake of it.
So, final thoughts?
For me personally, it's just mediocre. There's aspects in here that I think are both good and bad. And where I think it's mixed, more leaning towards not really liking it, I could see people getting genuine enjoyment out of it. If people say it's their guilty pleasure, I could definitely see where they're coming from. Far from his best movie, but it's also not the worst Adam Sandler movie I think I've ever seen. For me, it's just kind of middle of the road. So, we've got 2 more nights of Hanukkah left, and I hope for all my viewers you have a happy Hanukkah and a happy holidays.